What I'm about to show you today can be great information for bootlickers, as well as cops. Nothing against cops, but a lot of times cops swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, and honestly, they do not know it. You have unalienable rights. Unalienable rights are God-given rights, natural rights. And the only way you are allowed to accept someone to have authority over you is by consent. Okay? The Constitution was not made for giving you rights, because that's, again, unalienable rights. It was to limit government power. And I'm going to prove that to you today, and I'm going to make comparison so you can understand how we came to have these rights and the Declaration of Independence and the Magna Carta, how it all evolved and why. Because again, I personally believe and know history really does repeat itself, or surely rhymes. Okay, we see time as linear when many indigenous people have always seen time as circular. So I'm gonna begin with the Magna Carta. Now, in the early 1200s, England was ruled by King John, one of the most despised monarchs in English history. He was dangerous in a way tyrants usually are. Now, why was he dangerous? Well, he had excessive taxation, arbitrary arrests, sieges of property without trial, punishment without lawful judgment, ignoring long-standing legal customs, common law. John lost wars in France, drained the treasury, and made nobility pay for his failures. When barons resisted, he jailed them without charges, confiscated land, extorted families, and ruled by decree. Now, I want to go a little deeper when it says extorted family. His soldiers actually will go to people's houses, farms, right, and rob them. They go inside and look over their documents, their paperwork. Sometimes even there was reports of rape, right? And it was not just in the house, it was in horse carriage. So when some landlord was driving with their wealth, it has been known that because he got himself in so many wars with France, where his funds were depleted, and by the way, he got in war because he listened and borrowed from different groups that dragged him into war. So that's besides the point. The country became poor and poor, so he started robbing his own people, right? So what happened was, I want you to listen again, there was no cars back then, there was horse carriage, but they would go in and drag people out and sometimes even rape the woman or take away their documents and possession. And I must tell you how this evolved. So there was no due process. The king was the law. Eventually, in 1215, a group of powerful barons rose in armed rebellion. They basically kidnapped him. He was cornered, right? They set it up when he was away from the castle, where he was the weakest. And obviously they control, these people, barons control the London. They control the army. So John had no choice but to listen to their demand. They forced him to meet at Runnymede, a neutral meadow between armies, not his palace, not the throne room. And the king was compelled, under threat of force, to accept a limit of his powers. That document, that you may not know, became known as the Magna Carta, the Great Charter. Now, just so you can see, the Magna Carta, again, was to limit what? The government's power. It's in England. What were the core principles? I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'll give you a couple of clues so you can see how it evolved into the constitutional rights that you think you have. All right? Number one, the king is not above the law. The monarchs could no longer rule by whim. Government authority had to follow established law, not personal command. No imprisonment without lawful judgment. No free man shall be seized or imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his equal or by the law of the land. This is the ancestors of the due process. No charges, no trial, no jail. Protection, this is very important, protection of property. The king could not seize land, take goods, destroy livelihood without lawful cause. This directly influenced later protection of papers, effects, and possession, and even property. Things has been changed. You don't know that. Now, I want you to think about it, because if you have a car, is that not your property? Yes or no? Your car, your house, your effects, your paperwork, that is your property, and that is protected not only by the Magna Carta where it evolved, but obviously by the Constitution where it counts. And I'm going to address that later. No excessive fines or punishment. Justice cannot be sold, delayed, or denied. And this is what led to, obviously, the Declaration of Independence. The Magna Carta led to the English Common Law, Colonial Charters, Declaration of Independence, United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. So, I want to go over the Declaration of Independence. How many of you have actually read the Declaration of Independence? Now, I took constitutional law, by the way, and I want you to understand something, and no offense to friends, attorneys that I know, but keep in mind that an attorney is an agent of the court. They don't have a license. They are a member, okay? Member of the Bar Association. Member. Bar is British Accredited Registry. So they are the agent of the court, because you cannot defend yourself. You are incompetent, so you hire a lawyer, okay? Because rights cannot be licensed, right? There ain't such thing, okay? And this is where the confusion comes about to a lot of American people. But I'm going to elaborate. I'm going to go to the Declaration of Independence. Now, I don't even need to see this. I can tell you, right? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And what I told you, unalienable rights, God-given rights, natural rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, government are instituted among men, deriving the just powers. Notice the word just powers, not absolute powers. Just powers by the consent of the governed. We all know that part. And you could Google and search and they'll show you that part, but they don't show you the other part, which says that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principle and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and their happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that government long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. Accordingly, all experience have shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer. Mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same objects, evidences, and design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now necessity when constrained them to alter their formal system of government. For those of you who don't know, the early colonists went through the same thing again. They started doing what is called, instead of a specified warrant, they basically were conducting general warrants, which was illegal. So in other words, and I'll show you later by the Constitution, there's certain procedures that's supposed to go in order for you to, someone come inside your house and search you, including your possessions, your property. Your car is your property, right? This is why I know when people say comply, I'm not saying to fight or do nothing like that. I'm not calling for an insurrection, by the way. But this is why I found it wrong, and little by little they've been encroaching on your rights, because they sometimes don't understand constitutional law, and they come and they break your windows, for God's sake. They drag you out the car, but you have not committed any crime. An infraction is not a crime. Okay? And in order to them to even supposed to even be able to stop you, see, because of money, a lot of things have changed. Because remember, I want to add this part. There are agents of the courts as well. They generate revenues, which keeps the courts in business. And it's a conflict, I feel it's a conflict of interest, because they cannot be a testimony to themselves, because they, in order for you to be arrested or detained, they need a witness. But that has changed, and I'm going to show it to you based on the Constitution. So this thing happened back in early colonists. On top of you, we all know the Boston Tea Party. They taxed them a couple of cents or whatever it was, and they rebelled. But it was because they were tired of being arrested, raped, pulling them out of the carriages. Sounds familiar? Pulling them out of the houses, searching through their stuff and documents. And they had what is called standing armies at the time, and they rebelled against the standing army. That's how they rebelled. And obviously they rebelled, and it became more importantly because of currency. They felt that the king wanted to charge them these taxes at the time when they were not even representing them. I'm sure you heard of taxation without representation. They were doing all these crimes and all that. And since England was far away, or Britain was far away from the Americas, right? They were keeping all those funds over there, were not attending and helping out the people in America. Same thing like in Puerto Rico, taxation without representation. They pay taxes and all that, but they're not being represented by our government. They can't even vote for their president. But you get the point. So the point is, they rebelled, and that led to the Declaration of Independence that I just read you, and the Constitution. Now I want to go over the Constitution because a lot of you don't know what they are. Okay. And here we go. The First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting or establishing of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. Now I want to stop there, because freedom of speech, of course, they keep changing things around to violate that right. But freedom of speech is one of them, and freedom of the press. Do you think we have freedom of the press? Listen to me very carefully, because I know for a fact that the press is owned by certain individuals, elite, and they control what they give you, and they're not giving you, it's not free. They're not giving you what's actually going on. In fact, they own different, like Fox and CNN, so they purposely give you contrarian views, right? They also control the Republican Party and Democrat Party. They give you contrarian views, so you're fighting among each other because you think you're right, because you've been indoctrinated and you heard this from Fox channel, and this person listens it from CNN, for example. So they're bickering and fighting among each other, and they're being fooled, they're being manipulated to take you to the part. So maybe a civil war. They have these plans, but I'm going to continue. Amendment number 2, a well-regulated militia. You know that. Amendment number 3, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Why this happened? Again, there was no police back then. A police was a peace officer here, and it evolved to be military right now, because that's what it is right now. They're soldiers, basically. Okay, but back then, obviously, it was the soldiers. They were one that used to keep the peace. But when it got to that extent that they will go and rob and steal and take people's property and all that, then that's why they passed this amendment, okay? Amendment number 3. Number 4, this is one of the most important. The right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Why is that important? Listen to the words again. I don't know if I should repeat that again. Because a car is your property, right? Isn't it? So how are you secure in your effects when you have a cop who's representing the city? He's an agent of the court, right? He generates revenue for the court. That's a conflict of interest. And he's going to come without a witness, you haven't committed a crime, and pull you out the car. Listen, I know it involves a lot of money, and I get it. Some things has to be done for your own safety, for example. If not, people will be speeding, drinking and driving, and people's life will be at stake. I get that. But you know how you get pulled over? It should be, because by the way, you did sign a contract. You don't know that though, right? Because that's considered fraud because you're signing something you don't know about. That's just your driver's license. When you sign your driver's license, there's a contract behind it that you never see or read it. And it's basically allowing them to do certain things regarding, road conditions and how to operate. But that does not include dragging you out the car, breaking your window, because then you're not safe against your stuff. And I want you to understand something. Any law, regardless what the state, whatever, that it goes against the foundation, the supreme law, which is the Constitution, becomes null and void, as if it didn't exist. But many of you quickly comply, right? And they make up these laws, and you just comply, so you allow it. And I want to add to this because people think there's three branches of government. Constitutionally, yes, but there was also another one that I'm going to get into a little later. Okay? Now, Amendment 5 and 6, if you want, look, you can read this because I just wanted to go over that because that's why that woman was killed. I said it before. Okay? I warn you, many of you, that this is what's going to happen. And I said it. It's on videos. Why? See, many of you were complaining about immigrants. That's all set up. It was all planned. I told you because eventually we want to come and invade Latin America, and I prove it. It's all about controlling the dollar and natural resources and oil because we've done it in the past. You guys just not even ignorant, don't know that to the fact. But that being said, I knew that was planned. That's why they let him in, they set him up, and then this is all that happened. Because I want you to understand, okay? Common sense dictated, which is why I knew, common sense dictated that if you're allowing X amount of families to come in, they have babies and all that. Sometimes they already have other families that are already American citizens. If you're going to come and arrest them, I will support criminals. And I think most of us will agree that, hey, it's criminals, arrest them, right? But no, they come and grab families, separate them from their kids, drag them on the floor. It's all unconstitutional. By the way, that's right. Let me read the 14th Amendment. It says very clearly, look at this. All person born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privilege or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any states deprive any person, not citizen, person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. They are protected equally under law, person and what? And citizen. This is why I knew that we were being set up, and a lot of you ignorant people were fighting, and I knew it was going to lead to this, and it's going to lead to civil war, because common sense dictates that if I'm seeing my family being separated, and if they might be what you call undocumented immigrant, not illegal, but undocumented immigrant, what are most people going to do eventually? They're going to rebel. They're going to get mad. I mean, many of these people, thousands of them are disappearing. There's stories that some of them are appearing in the ocean, shackled up. There's a lot of stuff going on. We know for a fact that many of them, because these laws were passed that are not law, because again, if it goes against the Constitution, it becomes null and void, they have led to their arrest and death. So when I saw in New Jersey a Puerto Rican, American citizen, right, was detained without probable cause, without a warrant, they came inside the business through the rear, a veteran, and they didn't believe that his license was real. No, that I already knew, and I said it, and I wrote about this. Many used to laugh and all that. And I said, you don't understand. This is going to lead to this because people are going to get upset. Some people have empathies for others, and obviously it's going to get upset, and it's going to lead to civil war. And I called it. Eventually, it's going to be the cops. Listen to this, because we haven't got there yet. Cops against ICE is going to become, and I said it. It's recorded over a year ago. Okay, and this is exactly what's going on. It's common sense. They're doing this on purpose. Okay. It has to do with psyops, right? We do this to other countries. When we want to remove a dictator, or we want to create a dictator, actually, right? we create issues, right? And we put negative sanctions on these countries, and we stranglehold so they cannot buy or sell, creating poverty, and to the point so we could pressure the people to get them out because they're not representing our best interests, right? Like Venezuela, like Cuba, like Iran, and we keep doing this over and over again. We are a terrorist state. And we know this because, again, like I said, I'm Puerto Rican. My nationality comes from Ottawa Taino, Native Americans. And how have we been treated? We can't even vote for our own president, right? We can't even import our own food. They're buying, America here, USA, is buying coffee when we create our own coffee. Why they don't use ours? Anything that goes to Puerto Rico is taxed at an 18% or higher tariffs, right? Because of the Jones Act. There's a lot you don't know, but the point is, getting back to this, I knew it was going to lead to that. And again, these laws and the Constitution was made because of people that violated, the soldiers violated people's right, and it's happening again. All right, think about it. If a cop pulls you over, okay, what was it for? There has to be a probable cause. All right, you were speeding. Okay, here's your ticket. Why they got to come out the car and search and all that? It's irrelevant. See, they violate your constitutional rights, and it become norm that a lot of you say, yeah, just comply. Look, I have nothing against cops. I got families that are cops, you know, high-ranking officers. But I know constitutionally, based on historical facts of what happened before, it's going to lead to this, okay? Think about right now that woman that got shot. By the way, it's not even a cop. That's ICE. That applies. That's totally different, and I'm going to end with this. That's totally different, but the point is that it happens because we put things in place that was unconstitutional, that were violating your constitutional due process, and I called it was going to lead to this. Because how are you going to justify right now, I look white, right? Yeah, I'm a Latino, right? Or Hispanic, right? I'm an American citizen. Many of Puerto Ricans don't even speak. They don't even speak English. So what? You're gonna pull them out and have them go through all that, detain them when it's unconstitutional? I knew it was going to lead to that, okay? And I want to end with this because I know I'm dragging this out. And I did a video 11 years ago, and I had posted it, and you could read it because I've been educating people for many years. And one of the things it says about our rights have been encroached upon because people simply comply without knowing or understanding their unalienable rights. What the founders warned us about? It's exactly what the founders warned us about. The Declaration states, right? The Declaration of Independence states, whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, as I stated before. That principle still stands. Any law, policy, or order that abridges or abrogates your rights or is against the Constitution is null and void, as if it never existed. There is no duty to comply with unconstitutional acts, and no authority exists to enforce them. Acts carried out under color of law do not become lawful simply because an agent claims authority. If an officer or an agency is acting outside the Constitution, they are acting unlawfully, period. ICE is not a general police force. ICE is a civil immigration agency. As an American citizen, there is no reason, no authority, no lawful basis for ICE to pull me from my car, detain me, or restrain me absent a valid judicial warrant or probable cause of an actual crime. I don't defend criminals. I don't defend violence. I defend the reality that the unconstitutional laws are void, that compliance is not required, and that the people retain protection when the government oversteps its lawful bounds. This is not radical. This is American. And I stand my ground on this. Okay? Think about it. If Trump, whether you agree with him or not, would have not put these policies in place, which I knew was going to lead to this, right? Basically, they are constitutional. They're violating due process. And as I stated before, how do you know if that person is immigrant or not? Why? Because he's black? Because he's dark? Because he speaks Spanish? See, you racial profiling. And it was going to lead, because you're not doing due process, was going to lead to this. Unfortunately, that woman, I think that woman, if you look good, she probably wasn't even looking at the side because the car was there. She probably was going to turn around and she didn't even see that the guy, because it was that quick, and shot him and shot her. He is not supposed to be pulling her over in the period. She's an American citizen. They thought, what they thought? That she was, what? An alien? You see? And because we're violating due process, because we are going above our powers that we consented. We did not consent to that, did we? Huh? We did not. So that led to her death. Period. Full stop. Okay? That's what happens when you don't follow constitutional laws and due process, right? We're supposed to be safe while our personal effects, papers, houses, and things that we own. A car is part of your property. They're not supposed to, without a warrant, be searching, and that's my opinion, period. We agree through the driver's license, as I stated before, if I committed an infraction, okay, for my own safety and the safety of the community as a whole, right? Then we agree to certain things, but not for them to come and drag me out of my car, break my windows, my property, for what? For a citing ticket? Like I said, ICE don't have that authority constitutionally, and I'll stand there. God bless.